Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Maria Laura. I make functional art and collectible design. In this YouTube channel, I share my life as an artist. I talk about glazes, clay, and everything in between. I was contemplating the format of this YouTube video. To begin with, I thought maybe I would call it something like 10 most transformative insights I got out of one retreat or something like that. But then I decided, whatever, this is my YouTube video, my YouTube channel. I do whatever I want. And I think I just want to record my thoughts, my emotions, my impressions as a journal, as an imperfect storytelling, as a recording of my progress and my process. I just got back from a month-and-a-half long trip. I went to Portugal for an artist residency and a business retreat where I got 10 most important insights. And then I went to Lebanon, right in between bombings. I led a 10-day, very intensive glaze workshop. The whole trip was very emotionally and physically full of events and everything. I travel quite a bit, but it's rare when a trip is so fundamentally transformative. One of the reasons of why it was transformative was the business retreat. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about that, but in the next few videos, I would share more about the residency, how I got there, what I did there. I'll show you guys around the Portuguese artistic residency, as well as talk about the Lebanese workshop and how you can start teaching your own workshops. Let's get started. Business retreat. I honestly just came up with this name myself. The official name for the 4-day retreat was ADHD Coworking. A group of ADHD people, I suspect. I actually don't think I am ADHD. I was never diagnosed, but I suspect I am based on the lifestyle I lead and based on some things. A group of people from different career paths, different perspectives, different countries even, gathered in one location and exchanged experience. We worked, we went to sauna, we did the breath work, we did some practices, and then we worked again. I think the original idea of people who organized the retreat was that work is so important, especially when you have your own business, and even if you're a sole entrepreneur or if you really care about your career, work is so important for people like us that that's the place where we want the most fulfillment, the most self-realization, the fastest movement, and the fastest progress. I am at a place where for some reason career and self-realization, some projects, those are utmost importance for me. They definitely are at the top priorities for my values, and this is something that I want to be focused on. I already had so many retreats, and specifically at this point in time, this was exactly what I needed, because the blockages, limiting beliefs, whatever you call them, were in the field of work for me. I came to the retreat for two main reasons. I was feeling, first of all, that I cannot outsource anything that I do, and I did a lot. You can watch a video about how I calculated my overhead hours, and it was a lot of hours. It was absolutely useless for my career, for something big and grandiose like new collections or new courses or things like that. It was just like very, very busy routine work. The other problem was that I needed to begin reaching out to interior designers, to galleries, to retail spaces, and I was just procrastinating. I felt like I needed to create the most beautiful collection, the most beautiful catalog. Everything has to be perfect, and then I would be able to talk to them. And so that was another thing that I came with, and I wasn't even sure what I'm going to be doing with it and how I can resolve it. But I felt like if I am at the place for 4 days, and the only really big thing that I need to do is to work on those two issues, then I'll just get it done. And this is what happened. The retreat itself was organized by two Russian bloggers, Oля and Dima. I was following Oля for quite some time. I feel like she's probably the only person whom I could officially call my one and only role model. It's not like I want to imitate her or anything like that, but I definitely admire the lifestyle that she lives, the fact that she has kids, she has multiple businesses, multiple projects, and then at the same time she organized her life the way that's super convenient. She's making money, she's making art, she has kids, she has multiple boyfriends, and she's just having fun and doing lots of sports and surfing and all that. And it feels like this kind of lifestyle really fits me. I really love to be all over. I'm very active and I want to fulfill myself in so many different fields. So I've been admiring her for quite some time, and recently they started organizing different events. One of them was ADHD Coworking Retreat, to which I came. First thing first, It was a little bit expensive for me, and not even because of the price, but probably because of how I'm just not used to spending more than $1,500 for a retreat. And when I learned that I misread, and I also had to pay for accommodation, for transportation, for food, I was like, okay, screw it. So I wasn't very happy, but I feel like that was just my not paying attention. But this payment situation kind of got me started in an interesting direction. I started asking questions. Am I enough? Am I making enough money to go to this place? Like, what about all the other people? Would there be super professionals who sold their huge IT company for $500 million 10 years ago and now just enjoying their lives and can pay for whatever they want? Am I the only one who's making thousands of dollars per month? What am I going to be doing there? And so it kind of started this interesting chain of self-conscious behavior and self-conscious thoughts of how do I fit into this group of people? How do I fit into the entrepreneurial spirit, into, we can even think this level of financial success or this level of self-expression, this level of being myself in a way. I knew that it was the right time for me, so I didn't really have any doubts. It even felt like just the fact that I went to this artistic residency in Portugal was kind of in a way for this retreat, because of this retreat. I felt like I needed to be in Portugal in May. I didn't know why. And then when I learned that there's going to be a retreat at the end of May and it's going to be organized by those people, it kind of just clicked for me that, yeah, that's probably the reason why I wanted to be there in the first place. What was interesting is that I felt like I was using a retreat to just overcome things that were on my way. I feel like all of us have some things that are on the way. They just show up and they're different for everyone. They're so different for everyone that I don't even have the right examples here. But for me, number one was for sure this outsourcing. The idea of outsourcing, the idea of collaboration, the idea of expansion into the field of possibilities that are beyond just me, myself as an artist, just like a single person, into something beyond that. Now I understand that the word that I'm actually looking for is collaboration. While before the retreat, I thought, oh, I needed to outsource everything so that I can free up my time, so that I can do things that really matter for me. I failed to outsource. I failed to pay to people to do the work for me for so many different reasons. First, I thought, well, who would want to do things I don't want to be doing, right? Like, who would want to post my listings online for me? It's just such a boring task. Like, I don't want to be doing it. Like, why would anyone else be doing it? Second, money. I wasn't even sure if I can afford it with my business. But thankfully, I do have another job, and so I can pay for outsourcing using this other job to be able to focus on things I like. If you can afford it and it saves you money, it saves you time, then it helps me grow and helps me do the right things and do the most important things instead of spreading myself thin. I feel like the biggest part of why I couldn't outsource was my inability to pay someone to do something that I could be doing myself. For some reason, I felt like, oh, if I'm making a lamp, one of these, then I have to figure out the electricity part myself. I have to wire it myself. I have to like cut the wood or whatever myself. I have to edit all the pictures. I have to take all the pictures. I have to create my own website. Basically, whatever you've been seeing so far, I did myself. So I think I needed to do everything myself for some reason. It's either because I felt like if it's not done by me, if I haven't figured that out myself, then it's losing some of the value. The other reason is I feel like there was some generational trauma of why I couldn't pay someone to do the job that I could have done. And it's of course related to the money issues. If you've heard about Bolsheviks and kulaki, kulaki used to be peasants who managed to collect some property or some money. They were wealthier than other peasants. And when Bolsheviks came, they took a lot of things away. And so my family, from a long, long time ago, I think they had camels. I don't know why my region had camels, but I think they had a herd of camels in a pretty big house. And the Bolsheviks took everything and made it a communal property. And so I suspect that there is some kind of trauma from there. And of course, there was a lot of defaults and bank systems collapsing and just just a lot of issues. For me, that just seemed very challenging. Like, even looking back at it now, I can't even properly describe why it was so challenging, but in part because I've never done it in my life. I always worked just myself. I always done things myself. I never worked in a corporate world. I never worked with a team, for a company, for anyone but myself. So for however many 15 years of my career, I've never worked for anyone but me, except maybe some little jobs when I was a student. I started making some progress even before the retreat started. For some reason, just the idea that I'm going to be surrounded by people who will be working, who had their companies, and that I have those goals just made me think towards those goals and made me work on the things that I've been struggling with. So first of all, what I did is I found a person who would be doing my Pinterest account, and I gave them a task, and basically this girl was doing a really good job and she's helping me with my Pinterest account. I already knew what I wanted to be doing, so I hired a person who probably knows less about Pinterest than I do, but I outsourced the manual job of posting. So now all I need to do is I just need to upload my photos into the Google folder, and then she just does the rest. And that's really nice. So I already got this done. And then when I was walking around with my best friend in Portuguese mountains, we came up with an idea that it just like struck me as lighting, that I just needed a personal assistant, an online assistant who can do small visual things for me. For example, posting listings to Etsy, to my website, to First Dibs, or maybe posting YouTube shorts to this YouTube. Now, it's not me who's doing it, so yay, YouTube. If you came here from YouTube short, good job, my assistant. So lots of little things that I had to be doing, especially given that it's not only the physical product that I create, but also educational products. I also go to workshops. I just do a lot of different things from different perspectives, and I have my main job. So I kind of needed an assistant. And this was a genius idea because when I came to a retreat, I met a girl who worked at a railroad company for 17 years, and she occupied some really crazy fancy top position. And so she knew how to outsource really well. She knew how to delegate, how to hire a team, how to find the right people. And so I talked to her, and she just said, okay, just go and create a job offer and post it online and see what the response is going to be. And then I did. And then next thing I know is I have my first ever interview. And then 4 interviews later, I find the perfect person who has already done these exact things for another artist. She worked in a startup and she was helping an artist. And so she basically knew what to do. And she's a multitasker and she's just doing a really good job. So literally the first day of the retreat, I went and did it. Now the very first outcome of this whole trip is that I have a person who's helping me. It doesn't really take her that long, maybe 5 to 10 hours a week, but I have a lot of things that I can outsource, apparently. Things that I would be doing now instead of doing something more important, like creating my new collection, preparing those videos, preparing new educational products, just lots of other things, even sleeping. Even sleeping is sometimes more important than posting new listings on Etsy. So I'm very happy that I have her. She's really nice. She knows a lot more things than I do in a lot of different fields. And I'm just super satisfied that this blockage, this thing that I've been working on for so long, has been resolved so quickly. I have been struggling for almost 2 years because I always imagined, oh, there is going to be a certain point at which I will have to grow my team, I'll have to find people, I'll have to find ways to collaborate. And then somehow, step by step, even up to this moment, things just started happening. I hired my friends to take pictures for the catalog for me. And then I asked help from another friend, designer friend, to make a catalog. I created a draft, and then together we just like reorganized it. And then I found my personal assistant who is helping me online right now. So all in all, I feel so much better. And just having a team and having people I can collaborate with and people who can help me and grow my business just feels very refreshing and very stable. As soon as I found my assistant, a huge part of my mind just liberated itself and just became free and fresh to new ideas, fresh to new collections, to bigger work that will bring the results. It's really hard to describe how liberated I felt all of a sudden. Because instead of doing all of those big things, I would be editing photos right now. I would be compiling all the glaze tests that I got out of workshops myself. It's just lots of really small routine work that I use really successfully to procrastinate and not to focus on the things that help me grow strategically. And that same day, when I posted this job offer, I also approached another girl who works as a head of product in Canva, and she helped me finish up my catalog. And she told me, well, what do you want to do next? And I said, well, I want to email the galleries and the retail spaces, interior designers, but it's scary. And she was like, well, just start with the scariest ones. And I started with the scariest ones, and my top scariest gallery owner responded. And I was like, what? I had the list of galleries, and this gallery is so cool. I love them. I feel like my lamps would just be perfect fit, like perfect. I have such a good feeling about working with them. And so I'm really hoping that by the time I'm releasing this next video that they've responded and we're collaborating. So right that day, I finished the catalog. I sent it to 8 different places, 8 scary places, and I got 1 response. It just happened so quickly. And I think because I made this very first step, now it doesn't seem as scary anymore. Before, it seemed like the scariest thing possible, but then when you do it once, you kind of overcome this step, overcome this big pile of fears, and then you can keep going. Yes, the second time it's still going to be scary. When I wrote the follow-ups recently, I was like, oh my God, follow-ups. I cannot write follow-ups. And then I wrote the follow-ups and it all worked. And so I suspect that now it's going to be super easy to find those galleries, find those designers, find those people I want to collaborate with, and just email them, approach them, because how else can they find me? Of course, I have Instagram, I have YouTube channel, I have Pinterest, I am exposing my art everywhere, but I truly believe that the people who I am looking for are already out there looking for me and for my art. And we just need to facilitate this connection. We need to help each other find each other. So the more I approach those people, the more the likelihood that they are the ones that are looking to collaborate with me. And we will be the perfect match to each other. It was literally the first day of the retreat, and I was like, well, what am I going to be doing with the rest of my time here? But it was such a good feeling. It's that tiny first step that's the hardest to make. It's like, well, as soon as you make it, as soon as you make the second one, then it just keeps going. It gets easier and easier and easier. And it's just such a nice feeling of being there, just like getting it done. So for sure, the first step is to notice those things that are on your way. And then the second part is just to take the first step. It is the hardest thing to do. It's the hardest thing to start posting reels, to make the first reel on Instagram, to make the first photo, to sell your first piece, to approach that gallery. Even if they don't respond, it doesn't matter. It's still so hard to do, but once you get it done, you're out there and you're free to keep doing it. And yeah, then I was done. Then I'm like, okay, I have 3 more days. What am I going to be doing? And I found things to do. I wouldn't say it was a serious feeling, but there was one person whom I liked. This kind of connection, I think, happened mostly because I built a hierarchy in my head and I created this illusory picture of a person in my head. And those feelings just really took me over. I couldn't do anything with them. The normal, let's say, typical thing that I normally do with them is I am married in the monogamous relationships, but I've been in open relationships for quite a long time in my life. And back then it was pretty easy. I would just approach a person, I would talk to them, and then I'll see if it's possible to have a relationship with them or not. And I was in a different situation. First of all, I wasn't even sure if it was worth a conversation. But then second, what was even more interesting is to see what happens when I hit the rejection. And by that, I mean, not even by this specific person. Basically, during this whole retreat, because I wasn't sure how well I fit in, and because I wasn't sure where I am on this ladder of hierarchy that I created for myself in my head, I was very self-conscious about how I behave, how I act, how I react. I felt like I just put on a bunch of different masks on myself that wasn't who I was, that wasn't who I wanted to be. It's kind of this teenage feeling of being self-conscious in a specific circumstance. And for me, that was very difficult, very unusual. I didn't expect to feel this way, and I haven't felt like this in quite a while. And so it was really interesting to pay attention to it. There was one exercise that Sam Harris shares that would have been a perfect exercise for me back then, but of course my mind was occupied, is to pay attention to the center of self, to who is looking and who is feeling those feelings. Because I do feel self-aware and self-conscious of how I speak, how I behave, how I dress up, how my hair looks like. The best thing to do is to look and find the person who is feeling those things. And it's too bad that I didn't, because I feel like that was a perfect exercise for me back then, because I felt those feelings all day long, all night long, and I just couldn't get rid of it. And I didn't want to, but I couldn't, even if I tried. But it was just something that I needed to accept. It happened partially because I doubted myself, but also because I built a specific hierarchy in my head of, okay, these people are more successful than me for this, and this reason. And those reasons could include being well known on social media, or having a lot of money, or any other criteria that I think of that are particularly helpful. Because I've built this hierarchy in my head, not only with the person that I had feelings for, but just in general, like several people that I felt like are above me, those were the people with whom I felt the hardest to make contact, the hardest to have this warm connection, because it's unsafe. It felt really unsafe to approach them. It felt like I cannot be myself the way that I am with other people, the way that I am with the people who I consider to be equal. It's unsafe to approach those people, because if I am myself, would I be enough for me to be myself next to them, if they are in a very high position on a hierarchy that I created? So those people whom I feel like more successful, smarter, have more money, whatever else, like maybe they're fancy galleries, when I approach them, I feel like I need to be someone else, not myself. And because of that, I don't want to be doing it. First of all, if I do it, then it's unauthentic, then it's not genuine, it's not something that I want to be doing. But then if I do it, that means I have to be pretending, and I want to be doing that. And so I just sit there and do not talk and do not approach anyone who is scary. That was very deep for me, that understanding that because of this hierarchy, because of the fear of rejection, I am not able to be myself. And being myself and expressing myself fully and being genuine, not hiding anything, is such an important value for me and such a high priority that even here in this video, I decided to share things. Next day, I talked to ChatGPT. Dima, one of the organizers, he's really into AI, and he created a coach who is very abrupt. It's not the typical ChatGPT who agrees with everything you say. It's a ChatGPT who is more critical. Although I'm still feeling like this ChatGPT is not critical enough, but at least it's doubting your choices and it gives you different approaches. The idea is that you talk to this ChatGPT coach in the morning and in the evening. In the evening, you tell everything about your day, how it went, maybe some discoveries, some insights, and then in the morning it creates a meditation for you that's specifically tailored to your needs. And so I talked to ChatGPT for quite some time during this retreat, because one of the big topics for the retreats was AI optimization of the business and life. And ChatGPT noticed those feelings of mine. Basically, by mutual agreement with ChatGPT, I decided to just kind of look at those feelings and see what's there. One morning, I sat in a meditation and I finally saw this gigantic, big black hole that's inside of me that I've been avoiding, I think, my whole life, by not making difficult decisions, by not making unsafe decisions, by not approaching the people I liked for the fear of rejection, by not doing different things that were scary and unsafe because of the fear of rejection or because of the potential rejections that they might cause. And so I was sitting there and I literally saw the blackness and like how dark and deep this hole is, and how I was in this rejection back then, and how the rejection just occupied the whole me, how I was falling into this big black hole and there was nothing nothing I could catch on, nothing I could grasp on. And it wasn't pleasant. It wasn't really pleasant. It was really something that I've avoided my whole life. So if there's a feeling, if I want to do something, but then I understand that there's a very big possibility of being rejected, not being accepted, there's a very big chance that I'm just not going to be doing it to begin with. If I would only be doing things that I feel like there's a very strong possibility of me succeeding. And if those things are not, then I would, of course, face the failure, face the rejection, fall into this gigantic black hole and not feel very good. And because I've been avoiding those feelings, I might have ended up with people I didn't want to end up with. I might have had some relationships that I didn't want to have. I might have ended up in situations that weren't really perfect for me because I agreed to things only when they felt safe, when those people have chosen me already, those galleries or retail spaces have chosen me already, those collectors have found me instead of me approaching them and looking for them. So all of those things I did because of this fear of this big, big black hole, in which I sat for quite a while, maybe half an hour or so, and it was unpleasant, but it wasn't as scary as I felt it was. And it felt like this ability to tolerate those feelings, this ability to be in them, that was actually the most valuable thing I think I took out of the retreat, is the idea that they're not going to break me, that I can just be there and feel the rejection, but at least I know for sure that I followed my path and I let those feelings be. I accepted them as they are. Like I did everything I could, but that was enough. And then the feelings that come, this big black hole of rejection, it really is a really good place to be. That means that you're doing more than safe. And that means that the growth is happening a lot faster. And I love that. I really love that. And then I came out of the meditation and then I met two of the girls who were at the retreat and they were walking around. And one of them was like, I found your Instagram yesterday and it's just the way you talk about your business versus the Instagram I see. She was very surprised that I had an Instagram with like thousands of followers and that my art was in this gallery. While I feel like I presented myself as I make ceramics. Like somehow, let's phrase it this way. My self-presentation did not match the things I have already achieved, the things that I've been doing, the art that I'm creating, maybe the quality of art or the recognition that other people give me, all the gratitude that I receive from my courses, from my teachings, from my posts, from my art. All of this I somehow did not integrate enough to be able to express what I am about, what my art is about, what I'm here to do, why I'm here in this universe, why I'm making what I'm making. So I failed to do it. And I've heard it several times. I've heard one more person also talked about it. She's like, well, the way you describe what you're doing versus what I see online are completely different things. Like they're so far away from each other, meaning me, my representation online and the art I'm making is so much better than the way I talk about myself. And I'm like, yeah, it is a problem. It is a big problem for me, talking about myself, talking about my art. I feel like it's probably a big issue for a lot of people, not only me, but I definitely feel it the most when I'm at the networking events, when I'm at the gallery openings, and you have to talk to people, and I have to be like, oh my God, I'm this amazing artist, I make this amazing stuff. It's really difficult, I worked so hard on it, and finally I achieved it, and I self-expressed, and it's just so beautiful. And I just cannot say it in such way. I'm normally just mumbling like, oh, I make art. Before I even said like I'm a ceramic artist. For some reason, ceramic artist doesn't sound as cool as my art looks like. So that was sad to hear. That was definitely very difficult. And I was already overcome by other things, by this fear of rejection. And then I'm like, oh my God, now I don't even know how to express myself. It was quite a journey, I would say. It was quite a retreat. It was really good to see those things and how raw, alive, strong they were in me, and how much of a liberation I get and how big of a growth I get once I overcome them. Once I'm able to say who I am and what kind of art I make and why I make this art, why I make this art, why I share it, how I make it. And then the retreat ended then we just had a sharing circle. I felt like my journey wasn't complete. It's like I was just there with all of those realizations, overcome by all of those feelings and emotions and just difficult stuff, like it's easy to talk about it here and be like, oh, black hole of rejection, but how it actually feels in the body, it's a different thing. How it actually feels not being able to show myself to people I really care to show myself to. How it feels when I inside know who I am, but I cannot present myself this way. I've learned how to do it online, even here on YouTube, on Instagram, but then in person, in the first conversation. Whenever I enter the room and I talk to a group of people, if they don't know me online on social media, they would have no idea who I am. And for some people, there were some people in this retreat who were super fancy and super famous, but I had no idea who they were, and I would have never known unless they told me, or unless somebody else told me. And it felt like for them it wasn't even important anymore. Versus for me, I know that it is important, because without it, I wouldn't be able to pitch my ideas to potential collectors and investors and people who appreciate art. For me, it felt like it was really crucial for my career. That was the problem, And so the retreat ended, and we had the sharing circle, and everyone was gone. And I was like, wait, help. Help. And then thankfully one person was still there, and he was going to Lisbon. And I was like, well, let's go together. And we went together in a car, and this guy worked in large companies helping with branding, and right now he's trying to leave the corporate world and open his own company, helping other brands to succeed, overcoming different potential problems. But I feel like the most important thing is to truly figure out where they get stuck and to truly resolve those issues, whatever that is. And he was talking about his goals and his vision. And I was like, man, you're doing such a good job describing all of this. I cannot do the same thing. Based on everything that I've heard, I'm just so bad at talking about myself and talking about my product, talking about my art. And he told me, well, tell me. And I'm like, well, if I tell you right now, it's gonna suck. It's just gonna not sound really good. And then he led a very nice meditation where he grounded me, and he asked to pay attention to the breath, to the wheel, to everything around, and it worked. And then he said, okay, Maria, just tell me how you see your brand, how you see what you do, how you see why you're making this art. And then I told him, I don't even know if I'm able to repeat it, but I told him that it's been a long journey, and finally I feel liberated that I can make it. Finally I feel the true vessel of all these ideas that go through me, through my filter, and realize themselves in the physical world. I told him that ceramics is probably the easiest way for me to make it, because that's the easiest medium which can express all those textures, all those feelings that I feel, something that connects this world to another world, to a space, to a place where we've all been at some point, but we've all forgotten, and we're longing to be connected with this place. When we see those textures, those planetary, outer worldly, it helps people feel this connection to something internal, something ingrained, archetypical, something primal, something that we've lost this connection to. For some people, they look like stars, like the cosmos, like the moon, urchin or something. Our mind is trying to find what my textures look like. Or it's a typical thing for the mind to look for patterns, to try to compare, what those textures look like, what those shapes look like, what do they resemble. It's us trying to understand something inexplicable, something that's so much beyond the words and writing and interpretation that it's really useless to do. So I told him something like this. Then he mirrored me, he reciprocated, he just repeated exactly the same things as I said in such a way that I understood that he knows what I'm talking about. He knows this feeling even without looking at my textures. He knows why I'm here and what I'm doing here. He really saw me. He really saw me for who I am. And I think this what closed the whole circle. This kind of just rolled it all in, closed it back together, packed it so that I'm ready to go instead of being broken and unclear and confused about what was happening. And I said, thank you for seeing me. Thank you for recognizing me, for knowing who I am, for understanding who I am. And he said, well, I didn't do anything. You allowed me to see you. And I was just a witness. I was lucky and fortunate for being there when you let me see you. And then he said, don't let others miss out on this gift of you. This is where I started crying. That was it. This is where the retreat stopped for me. And this is where I was left with the necessity of the integration. It was really fun. Just the idea that, a retreat without any substances, a retreat that was related to work that ended up so deep for me. I thought I would be outsourcing. I thought I would be sending the catalog to galleries. But then it turned out that, there are those two physical things that I had to overcome. But then there's some things that are a lot deeper in me that I had to overcome to be able to grow and progress. And I'm very happy and very fortunate that it revealed itself, that it happened, that I managed to overcome those things, or at least look at them closely enough to be able to recognize them in the future. I would say my main takeaways from the retreat are that there are people out there who are like me. There are people out there who have the same values, the same goals, whose environment would nurture the things that I want to be growing. Being surrounded with those people is such a gift that can accelerate the process so much faster. It's just, this all of those books about, how to be successful, fancy, and rich, they all talk about the environment. But it is really true if you surround yourself with people who are like-minded, who have the same goals, who are of the same kind. For me personally, it's this spiritual/entrepreneurial people who, instead of complaining, they're grateful for things that they have, and they're willing to grow, they're willing to overcome their problems, they're willing to push through for the better life, for the most fulfilled self-realization, for helping others. Those people exist, and those people would nurture you. Those people would reveal in a certain, let it be in closed circles, but either way, they would help you grow. The environment does help you grow. Outsourcing, successfully achieved. Since then, I've done many other things that I'm really excited about, but I think I'll probably talk about it in the future videos. Making small steps that we're afraid to make is another thing. Being able to tolerate rejection in such a way that you're not pushing it away, but instead being in it, being with this feeling of opening up yourself as you truly are and not being accepted as you truly are. I think this is a very strong feeling. Choosing to be yourself and choosing to follow your path, no matter how many people are gonna like you. I feel like this is such an amazing skill to have. I feel like it's such a big propeller of growth. From there comes just the idea of being myself and not being afraid of showing myself to people I really care about. Of course, it doesn't mean that I have to share with the whole internet my personal life and all that. But I feel like, to a certain extent, I'm at a point of my life where I don't need to wear different masks. I don't need to pretend anymore. And the more authentic and the more raw, the more myself I am, the more people who truly need to hear what I'm saying, to truly need to see and understand my art, the more I am myself, the easier it is to find my people, my crowd, people who resonate, who feel they know what I'm talking about, who feel the same things, who might find it helpful or who might help me. The more I trust myself, the more I trust my journey, the more I'm accepting of myself, whatever cliche it is, but it really works. The easier it is to do whatever I want, to live my life in the way that I'd like to. The easier it is to fulfill my mission. Yeah, So I think that's all. I think that's all I had to share. It's been quite a long video, but I hope you enjoyed it. That was part of my month-and-a-half long trip. One of the most intense parts, one of the most transformative. I'm gonna see how it all plays out because I'm back home, and now that I outsourced all the things that I'm typically procrastinating through, now I'm left with clay and with my new ideas that take forever to express, they take forever to explore. I mean, just for reference, for those who don't work with ceramics, I need to make my first tests. I'm trying to use the paper clay for wall installations for my upcoming art show. And the test will take 4 weeks. The first round of tests will take 4 weeks to perform and to test. Ideally, I would have several rounds of tests before I can make something gigantic. And on top of that, I'm leaving in a month and a half, even less, to visit my family and to go to another very long and very intensive workshop in Bali. Kind of tight on time. And now that I am free to do the most important things, to film YouTube videos, to film new courses, to make new collections, I actually have to do it. You know, that is a problem. That is a problem, but I guess that's my next blockage that I have to overcome. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you watched it until the end. If not, you're missing out. Thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe, follow me everywhere. I have a lot of fun stuff going on, and I'll see you later.